If I were to ask you to name Indian president in 2 seconds, you would be dumbfounded for a second. But you know who the current American president is. This is because of the fact that US is the most happening and talked about countries in the world. US is an economic hub, military fortress, leader in diplomacy and a land of opportunities. How did the US get to the position where they are? Well, it is their committed leadership who took their country through a roller coaster ride over the centuries. They fought giants like Hitler and Osama bin Laden. They embraced people from every nook and corner of the world and gave them an American dream and earned the respect of being called as a land of freedom. But who calls the shot? Who is the commander in chief? That's right, it is the president. Presidents who had rewritten the pages of political science and international politics. How is the most powerful president on the earth? Correct me. Not just the earth, they are leading in outer space too. How is he elected? Let's get to the details. The election process of US president can be spread into 5 steps: primaries and caucuses, national convention, election campaigning, and electoral college. Let us look into them in order. Firstly, primary. Primary is a state level election where party members vote for the best candidate, who is called delegate, that will represent them in general election. In primaries, it is important to notice that party members do not directly vote for the party presidential candidate. Instead, they vote for delegates. So the key here is to remember the candidate who is contesting in this primary is called delegate. All the elected delegates gather at national convention to decide on their presidential candidate, which we will discuss in a while. Likewise, in caucuses, this is an open ballot, which means that they vote through group discussions and debates. A caucus is a local meeting where registered members of a political party in a city or a town or even county gather to vote for their preferred party candidate. This is similar to primaries, except this is more of a discussion. This is based off of discussion, and this is a secret ballot, which is by EVM or a ballot. It is important to note that both these primaries and caucuses are held within both the parties, that is Democratic and Republican, to elect the right presidential candidate from their respective party. So if I were to give you the number of total Democratic Party delegates, it is 3979, and the Republic Party delegates are 2550. Let's look at National Convention, what happens there. So if you look at the flow here, I have given you the Democratic Party version of it and the Republic Party version of it. So all the things what I discussed till the D1 campaign and R1 campaign are related to the parties, and it is not general. You cannot sum this up. I'll get to that in a bit. At national conventions, once the primaries and caucuses are completed in each state, a national convention is held, which a party's nomination for president is formally announced. It is important to know that formally it will be announced who is the presidential candidate. If in our example, D1 or D2 or D3, how they will be announced, we will get to that. Each party holds a national convention to finalize the selection of one presidential nominee. For example, if a Democratic Party candidate gets support from 1991. So if you look at the number here, the total number is 3979, right? Out of which, if you could secure 1991 votes, he will become the Democratic Party presidential candidate. Likewise, if a Republican Party presidential candidate is set to acquire 1275 votes among 2550, then he will be set to Republic Party presidential candidate. At each conventions, both a Democratic and Republic, the presidential candidate chooses a running mate. It is important to know even the vice presidential candidate is also chosen at this level. Next, we look into the general election campaign. So what happens once the presidential candidate from each party is selected? So this is the phase where political parties go for campaigning, go for rallies, go for debates, and go for advertisements. So basically they travel across the country length and breadth and root for themselves. And nextly, general election, which is on November 3rd. This is also called as election day. What happens on this particular day? Many voters might be surprised to learn that when they step into a ballot box to select their candidate for president on election day, they actually are casting a vote for electors. It is important to remember the word here, electors. People in every state across the country vote for one president. They vote for one president and one vice president. When people cast their vote, they are actually voting for a group of people known as electors. Like I just said, they don't directly vote for president or vice president. Instead, they vote for local electors who choose either they want to go for Republic Party or a Democratic Party candidate. And it's important to note that the group of all these electors, which are around 538, are called as electoral college. These electors appointed by the state are pledged to support the presidential candidate the voters have supported. And it also important to note that to win the election, a candidate needs to secure more than 270 out of 538. So let me make it clear. Every state appoints electors from both the parties. General public on election day vote for those electors who represent their parties. These electors indeed elect the president of the United States. Like I said, total electors are 538 and they need 270 to cross the mark. And let's see what happens on the electoral college. If a candidate gets the most votes within a state, they receive that state's full quota of electoral votes. This is very important because this is where most of you might be confused how when a person gets a popular vote and he still loses the election. For example, let me explain here. If there are 10 electors, in a state, out of which 6 electors supported Democratic and the remaining 4 supported Republic. So what happens here? As Democratic has the majority share, Republican Party candidates or the electorate has no choice but they have to support the Democratic. So in general, what happens is all these 10 electoral votes for this particular state goes to Democratic Party. So it is important to note the phrase here, winner takes all. This is the reason why candidates focus more on the bigger states as they have more electors, like the states like California and Florida. There are a total of 538 electoral votes. The candidate that gets more than half, which is 270, wins the election. It is as simple as that. I have also given you the time frames here. If you look at the first primaries and caucuses stage, it happens around February of that particular election year, and Democratic and Republic national conventions happens around August, and campaigning happens for 3 months, that is August, September, October. Election happens on the November 3rd, and electoral college decides the presidential candidate on December 14th, and soon after that on January 20th or 21st, president take oath ceremony. So this is how the election process happens in US. There are around 4 to 5 interesting facts that are part of this process. Let us discuss them in detail. Why no direct voting? If you observe closely, general public voted twice for the US presidential candidate, first while electing delegate and second while electing an elector. Both the times they didn't directly vote for presidential candidate. The intent of the framers was to filter public opinion through a body composed of wiser, more experienced people. The framers didn't want the president to be chosen directly by the people. Ironic, isn't it? Does winning popular vote win you final election? Even though the majority of people of the USA vote for a candidate, that does not mean that he or she will win the presidential election. There are instances where a candidate who won the popular vote lost the election. The best example is 2016 US presidential election, where Hillary Clinton won more votes than Donald Trump, but she lost the election as the electoral college of big states went to Donald Trump. Why elections on Tuesday? Surprisingly, US president elections are held on Tuesday after first Monday of November. The reason was to prevent it from falling on November 1st. The day was considered unfavorable because some Christians observed it as All Saints Day. Why candidate focus more on swing state than small state? Because the bigger the state, the more the electors. The more the electors, the more the winning chance. Who is the head of the state and government? US president is both the head of the state and government, but in India, prime minister is the head of the government and president is the head of the state. So these are few facts that we can ponder from the election process. So this is all for today. If you like the video, please like and subscribe to our channel Edunation 365. See you with another interesting topic. Until then, goodbye.